From Senegal to Sugar Hill, trace the bloodline. 100 years of brilliance through the color line. They thought the shackles broke but kept the mental chain. Langston penned the future while they legislated pain. Harlem's ballrooms birthed the cosmos in mahogany, while lynching trees still decorated southern botany. Josephine, Waker's pearls, and Garvey's Navy ships. Du Bois debating destiny with scholarship on his lips. The Renaissance was a renaissance of West resistance, fam. Every trumpet blast from Armstrong was a battering ram. They gave us minstrel shows, we gave them Sora Neal. Turned depression into art, made the fabricated real. Cotton Club excluded us from tables every set. To form the Deanus Nightly, never free from the debt. But Bessie Smith could shatter glass, shatter cash, shatter lies. Every note she sang contained a revolution in the sky. Build temples from the rubble, make cathedrals from the scrubble. Turn the margins to the center, now they study what we scribble. We build temples from the rubble, every generation double the inheritance of genius that they tried to keep us from. Fast forward through the decades, watch the pattern reassemble. Malcolm's speeches, Martin's marches, every voice begins to tremble to the earth until the structure shows its fractures. FBI was tracking every coon with every pastor, every actor. 40 acres never came but 40 minutes on a stage. To reconvene your consciousness and channelize the rage. From bebop to hip-hop, the fool lines mathematical. Each generation weaponized the beautiful, the radical. They gave us Reagan out as crack and mass incarceration. We gave them Public Enemy and blueprints for liberation. The Harlem Renaissance never ended, just evolved its form. Every freestyle cipher is a brainstorm, he's a storm. Where the children of the talented, the tenth that the was prophesied, inherit the fire that the water couldn't wash aside. They tried to write us out the narrative. We offered all on text, 100 years of proof, and that we're destined. Where was next? Temples from the rubble, made cathedrals from the struggle. Turned the largest to the center, now they study what we scribble. We built temples from the rubble, every generation double the inheritance of genius that they tried to keep us from.
Everything. There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. Had my mute button on. Again, this is and you are Under the Groove. Welcome, everyone. Peace and prosperity to the brothers and sisters in this get down. Y'all know how we do. Here I am, and there you are. So let's make it happen. All right, RGC, let's get it in. Let's get it in. Let's get it in. Grand Rising, everybody. Happy Thursday. If you're in this day, you up and running, Grand Rising, all right? May your day have been everything you set out for it to be. You know, you got productivity going on, you're positive, your loved ones are well, everything is everything. That's a good look. That is always to start. That's how you want to end the day, the way you started. Good, you know, energetic, you know, all that shit that matter. I have a couple of things I want to drop today. You know, I'm in that vibe, you know, I'm in that vibe. Let me be 100. And that vibe, actually, you know, this groove that I'm under, you know, that I'm standing on is about recognizing, man. Again, we talked about this yesterday briefly, I think, well, to some extent, but recognizing what these distractions are. And a lot of us tend to think that these distractions are always some outside noise, you know, and effects. For the most part, man, a lot of us miss the fact that a lot of our distractions that we see that come before us are from our base, our own people, you know. They're everywhere, you know, and they're involved, you know, with whatever, you know, that program is, you know what I mean, that has been established or is in motion that most of us follow. And that's not me saying it like that doesn't make that a good thing. Basically, I'm pointing out, or I want to say, these distractions, even from our own kind, are detrimental, counterproductive. All right, let's put it like that. my mind is on this because I was doing some stuff today in regards to this voting issue, the thing that happened with SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States. Everybody's talking about uh, Clarence Thomas, and the other six Supreme Court justices who, basically dismantled or gutted. That's the phrase everyone is using. The 1965 VRA, the Voting Rights Act. All right, a lot of that, or let me put it like this: based on what they passed, based on their decision, those who are really about this voting thing and all that, yeah, a lot is about to transpire as a result of that. Them opening it up, because that's effectively what they've done. They've opened it up to be dismantled completely. And I'm gonna tell you that is I don't want to say slippery slope, but that's the snowball. That snowball effect. Hey man, that thing's gonna get bigger and bigger. So we are under attack. Make no mistake about that. All right. But we should have known that we were under attack last year when Trump came into office and he did what he did. And we mentioned this briefly about the removal of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We mentioned this also when we spoke about affirmative action, but not only that, but who actually benefits from it the most. It wasn't us, though. That's the story. That's the narrative. All right. But when Trump came and removed that, we should have knew then. Well, most of us did. I can say some of us did, that we were going to be under attack. When they did what they did with this immigration thing, though we didn't participate because we had said what we said to people, they didn't listen. That's on them. However, most of us also understood that, hey, when they're done with them, they're going to come after us like they've always done. You know what I mean? And so if we think and we look at this clearly, we can see where this attack is coming from in terms of us. So yeah, we haven't been in this situation for no long periods of time without understanding, knowing that we are in a war. All right. But now it's been amped up, it's intensified now, and they're enacting it, they're waging it against us through what a lot of our people really they really hold substance to. They really are a part of that thing called the voting process. I've always been one to say that was all a sham and a scam, if you ask me. I never thought for a minute that shit meant anything to us, and it didn't carry any weight for us. We see that, or we should be able to see that, in terms of how we vote these politicians. And we've been doing this for 5, 6, 7 decades, 5 decades, 6 decades, voting for these people and getting nothing in return. And if we did receive anything as a measure of what we did or what we called ourselves pushing for, our ancestors especially, it wasn't solidified. It wasn't etched in stone or granite. It wasn't put in place to such an extent or point where it could never be removed. So we're seeing that being removed. All those efforts, all that effort, all that blood, sweat, and tears, that death, was for naught. Because again, whether you trust what I'm saying or not, the reality will speak for itself in terms of what's about to happen. Hey, man, they're about to dismantle everything. We're going to be put in a position to where anything that they say they gave us or that was given to us will be taken back. That's just what it is, man. All right. That being said, so we're mad at Clarence Thomas. All right. And again, we spoke about this last night. Don't be mad at Clarence Thomas. We understand. You know what I mean? Come on, man. We already knew he was going up to bat for. He's at the plate. He's hitting home runs, not for the people, not for the masses, not even for the bole or the bougie, the elite class of our people, because that exists too, and that's the point I want to get to. Whether we agree or not, a lot of them play ball with them as well. They're gatekeepers, man. We miss what that truly really means, what it actually represents. We don't get it, Now, if we think back in terms of history, our people have been playing ball with them for a very, very, very long time. Before integration, our people were playing ball with them. Anytime that you involve or we involve ourselves in a system that we know is detrimental to us, and yet we continue to involve ourselves in the system, and we recognize that it is actually hurting us, you know, hey man, there's no one else to blame. There's no one else to blame, and it's been said on this channel, at the very least, that a lot of what is going on, man, it's orchestrated. It's happening for a reason. It's happening for a reason. I don't know what else to say in terms of that, but voting and all this other stuff is part of their system. Their system is not designed, man, to shelter us, to honor us, or to serve us. It's just not, Again, if we look at politics and how it has affected us, we can readily see that it hasn't done anything for us. These concessions, they say, oh, we've made progress. That's all cap and crap. It's all cap and crap, man. That shit doesn't mean nothing. It does not serve the cause of the people, the masses. It only serves a certain few. Now, on that note, like I said, I got some stuff. I went and did a little research today, quite a bit actually. And I want to, touch on a little bit of it. I have a couple of clips I also want to involve. But I want to start by bringing up what I just mentioned in terms of how the system, or how we're played in the system, how a lot of those things that we do in terms of activism are not necessarily or always in our favor or done for us. A lot of us don't get that. I think there's, for instance, Pan-Africanism, there are two classes of that, man, and a lot of us don't get that. There's that side that's raw and uncut, and it's about what it's actually about, the people. Then there's that side of it where others have infiltrated it and, are making it out to be this thing where they talk that talk about, all of us recognizing where we come from exactly and speaking or preaching to that. But there are things added. There are ingredients that are unnatural put into it that, leads us to think or believe that it's okay to do this, that, and the third, when it's really not. Pan-Africanism serves a purpose. It's specific. We don't see that in action in terms of a lot of our people who say or participate in what I call this new version of Pan-Africanism, man. This shit is serious. It's going down. And there are a lot of our people, back to what I was saying, who play ball, and they lead a lot of us to believe that, hey man, just be cool. Don't worry about it. We're going to get ours, All the while, nothing's coming down the pipes for us. Not as a unit, not as a whole. The masses don't receive that trickle down. That trickle down only affects or lands on or quenches the thirst of those who are gatekeepers, or those who've been appointed to be our so-called leaders, our misleadership. You know what I mean? Those are the ones who actually benefit as a result from this. But that being said, man, I want to get into it. I think getting into it means a lot, man. There's a lot, as I said, is not being discussed. We tend to get caught up on a lot of other outside issues that really affect how we're supposed to be looking at this situation and focusing on what our objective or our purpose is really about. There's so much thrown into this game to where, hey man, we've lost ourselves. We've lost ourselves in a whole lot of this stuff, man. And a whole lot of this stuff, like I said, is actually detrimental to us more than it is beneficial to us, So that being said, let's get into these comments right quick. I'm gonna hit it up I'm gonna get into them like I always do. Queen and Zinga say, man, happy Thursday, or happy Friday Eve. Excuse me. Happy Friday Eve. No, you got peace and blessings to the kings and queens of Royal Group Congregation. Appreciate that, Queen and Zinga. Russell Peterson in the house, y'all. He showed up again. That's what's up. Top of the evening, young man. Just checking in. Much love, Big Pete. Respect you for that, Big Pete. Love you as well, bro. Always appreciate when you come in, man, and drop something in the comments, man. For us, that is appreciated, no doubt. All right. Alonzo said, man, peace to the RGC family and you, Bub, and yours. Right back to you, Alonzo. Peace and prosperity to you and your family as well, bro. Yep. You said something about they never codified it. I don't know what you're speaking to, brother. You say they never codified it. Codified what? Codified what? The vote? The Voting Rights Act? Yeah, if that's what you're talking about, yeah, be more specific. I don't want to read something into something that you're not saying. All right. C1, we see you, sister. She said, Grand Rising, Uncle. Right back to you, niece. Grand Rising, peace and prosperity. All right. The power is in you, like I said, still inside, but moving forward as you should. Do not become stagnant. Always push. Always push. She say, love you and all the RGC. We love you as well, sister. You be all right. Hold your head up. Tap into that source. You're going to be all right. All right, right back to you, Bam. Bam say, salute, Bub. Bam, you got a habit of writing Bud, B-U-D, rather than Bub, B-U-B-D. That's fine, bro. That's fine. Right back to you, though. Salute to you, OG. Good to see you up in here, man. And he says, salute to the chat. That's a good look. That's a good look. C1 said, OG Compton, I hope you and yours are well and safe. Alonzo, my love, brother, to all the queens. There it is. B1 is black first. That's what it is, man. That's what it is. So yeah, that's that was my day. My day was I did what I normally do in terms of doing the content I do, you know what I mean? Dropping it for the other channel and all that, and then researching stuff for Under the Groove, to get into the point or getting to where I'm doing not just touching bases with the people, but other content just to put out to the masses, and then refer touching bases to that, attach it. It doesn't matter, it matters, but I haven't gotten around to it. So my thing in terms of Under the Groove podcast and just dropping normal stuff, I want to go in with something I think that's, thought-provoking, you know what I mean? I don't want to be in there attacking nobody about nothing, but trying to bring substance, understanding, comprehension, enlightenment, if that's at all possible, to the people, So that's what I've done most of my day, all right? That's what I've done for most of my day. B60, good to see you up in here, bro. He said, greetings and salutations to you, Bub, and the RGC B1 Black First. Again, C1 say love to all and just tapping in. B1. All right. Good to have you here, though, C1. Good to have you here. But again, my conversation I would like for us to tap in or touch on, since this is touching bases with the people, touch on what Pan-Africanism is and how, in a lot of ways, it's being diluted by our own. That's what I think, that's what I think. And I've done a little research. Like I said, I got a lot of information regarding that, regarding that. So our struggle to get to where we need to be be able to focus on the focus, we got to understand also, again, it's not always the outside influences that's trying to distract us. In some cases, and even in most cases, it's our own. It's just the game they play, That's the game they play. So when we talk about certain individuals not caring about the masses, yeah, that's them, But it goes greater, or it involves others who are not just athletes or TV celebrities. These are a lot of our so-called politicians, our misleadership, rank and file, just calling it what it is, man. I'm gonna call it what it is. But that's what's actually happening, Excuse me, y'all. That's what's actually happening. So again, I read on some things. Damn, man, don't tell me that happened. All I did was touch this thing, man. Why would they do that? Great. All right. Thought I lost it. Anyway, right quick. And this is for the brothers, especially those who are knowledgeable in terms or regards to and of what Pan-Africanism is, what it should be, and whether or not it's being represented, based upon, its core issues or values. You know what I mean? You know, so I say we can look around, man, and we'll see a whole lot that doesn't mesh with what that's supposed to be. We have a whole lot of individuals. Again, I mentioned the Boule, the so-called black elite or the intellectuals. All these people are playing a hand in this situation, that this dire situation we're in. Believe it or not, you know, I got receipts. Let's put it like that. I have receipts. All right. But you know, when a lot of our brothers and sisters who are part of these fraternities and sororities, you know, that's a whole different mindset than a lot of us really comprehend. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot to this that let's say we tap upon or tap into. All right. Just get an understanding. And again, it's not to bash or, you know, we're not going to do all that, but, you know, we're going to speak truth to power. Let's put it like that. All right. We'll speak truth to power. Young Vons 111144 said, man, 32-year-old father, I appreciate the content. I think Pan-Africanism has been diluted because often Black Americans are disrespected by the rest of the diaspora. That's part of what this conversation should be about. There are too many indicators that says exactly what the brother Young Von just said, but we're not focused on that because, again, our attention is drawn towards that which is coming from the outside, you know, and is that is bombarding us, you know, on the inside, affecting this, our physicality, everything. But it's our own people, man, to a great extent. See, it's their job. Those who play ball with the other team, it's their job, man. I got some stuff, all right? I'm going to stop talking about it. I'm going to drop it. Okay, Faith Help says Jesus is the only way. All right? Hey, there you go. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm saying, though, as a people, is it possible for us, especially those of us who have a certain faith and belief, to, you know, compartmentalize that? Or is it that, you know, everything you do in life must have or has to be attached to that? It's like saying you can't go through life without that being a part of it. That would include just discussions, you know, and that's, you know, that's the field I'm on right now. Just discussions, you know, just these discussions, you know. So I'd like to know the answer to that. Anyway, appreciate you being here, Faith Help. I think this is your first time. You know, you're more than welcome to be here. This is Touching Bases with the People. You're tuned in to the channel Under the Groove. This is where we get down with the get down, and we tend to try to focus on the focus and deal with those issues that affect us, each and every one of us, every day, all day. All right. One thing is for sure. None of us are going through something none of us have been through or is also going through. We're all in the same boat, whether we have a religion attached to it or not. You know, even with our religion, we're getting this. You know what I mean? We're getting this. You know, now if that time and period where our people, based upon scripture, supposed to have went through these centuries long suffering, that time should be up, right? That, you know, it should be up by now, you know, and if that's the case, you know, how are we going to go about, you know, stepping into, you know, the limelight or the forefront and correcting or claiming our, you know, our position, our righteous place, man, you know, on this physical plane, you know? It's a question. I'm not sure, but, you know, I'm putting that question out there to you guys. Okay, Faith, we hear you. There is no truth but in Christ. All right, there you go. So, pertaining to Pan-Africanism, all right, got a couple of paragraphs I want to run down. I want to run by you guys. Matter of fact, hold on. Let me go find this as well. And run this because, yeah, that's kind of long, but I'll do it like this. Anyway, but let's see what we got going on here. Just to give you, you know, a little context, right, in terms of what I'm talking about, Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is a global movement and ideology aimed at unifying people of African descent, promoting solidarity, and fostering political, economic, and social self-determination, both on the continent and throughout the diaspora. All right. But this thing, Pan-Africanism, is supposed to be rooted in resisting slavery, colonialism, racism, and it frames all African people as one family sharing a common history and destiny. All right. That's just, that's just an overview or just a quick statement of what's going on. But in terms of what Pan-Africanism is, the core tenets of it is unity and solidarity, right? Self-determination, liberation. We got shared history and destiny, cultural reclamation. All right. That's what it boils down to. Put this over here. That's what it's supposed to be about. All right. Now, in terms of what the historical figures and origins are, Pan-Africanism originated in the 19th century. The diaspora in the 19th century diaspora as a response to forced scattering and enslavement. Early thinkers, we're talking about like 19th century. Martin Delany advocated for return to Africa, and Edward Wilmot Blyton championed the African personality. All right, modern Pan-Africanism, 20th century. W.E.B. Du Bois, often called a major intellectual founder, declared that the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. Then we have Marcus Garvey. He promoted the Back to Africa movement and Black nationalism, stressing economic independence. All right. That's key. Remember that. Economic independence. Economic independence. All right. Then also as a part of that is political independent leaders or political independence leaders. Okay. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana was a fierce proponent of a United States of Africa. I'm just dropping some stuff right quick and we're going to move on. But key eras in the movement. Now, this is significant. The first, one of the first key eras in the movement could be pointed to 1900s or 1900. The first Pan-African Conference organized in London by Henry Williams to protest colonial land theft and racial discrimination. Next was the Congresses, 1919 to 1927, led by W.E.B. Du Bois. Those meetings shifted from local protests to demanding international recognition of Black rights and later African independence. The third was independence era, the 1950s through the 1960s, the liberation of African nations, influenced by Pan-African idea of sovereignty. All right. And then number 4, the modern era, the 21st century, focusing on the African Union, the AU, which recognizes the diaspora as the sixth region, as well as initiatives like Africans Rising. So into that, phrase, Africans Rising, that is something we're hearing now. It's being said quite often. We're waking up now. Blacks and even Africans are rising up. All right. I think that's very significant. That being said, let me move on. And again, this is a short read. It's not a long one. Key elements of contemporary Pan-Africanism. All right. Economic cooperation. That's one. Initiatives like the African Continental Free Trade Area, the AFCFTA, aimed at boosting intra-African trade. Next is the digital activism and youth. Young people are using digital platforms, music, and art to reconnect the diaspora and revive Pan-African pride. And this is why I think it could be considered why the Black Hat people are up in arms about the Black youth, but mainly or mostly here in America. There's something to that. And I hope to connect these dots for you guys. Next is reparations, the ongoing fight to gain compensation for the damages of the transatlantic slave trade and colonial exploitation. The African Union The next one, the African Union, while often debated, it serves as the modern official structure body or structural body for political unification. Pan-Africanism continues to evolve from its early roots, shifting from exclusively anti-colonial struggles to tackling modern global inequality, economic dependence, and fostering cultural renaissance. All right. Now, that being said, again, if we look at where it started to where it is now, there seems that, I think it could be easily said that, hey, man, those are different schools of thought, patterns or concepts almost, they don't seem identical anymore, So then it could be assessed or said that, they've changed or it's changed over time, which might make it all right, because I think that most things do evolve, especially if they're to serve a purpose. They need to evolve. They can't stay in that same, form or format that it originally began in, because, time is changing, people change as well. So, there is a difference, I think. But this is the next part. I think it is very significant. So if you can pay attention to this, right after this, I'll read some more comments. But Pan-Africanism and the organization often referred to as the Black Boule or Sigma Pi Phi are distinct entities with fundamentally different origins, goals, and structures. While some individuals may belong to both, they represent different currents of thought within the African diaspora. And that's what I was talking about when we were talking about Pan-Africanism. From what it started as to what it is today, there's a big difference. There's a big difference. They almost, they're like night and day, but pay attention to what is said in terms of Pan-Africanism and the organization often referred to as the Black Boule. There's a play in there somewhere, all right? We'll drag it out, we'll put it out like pulling teeth, surely, slowly but surely. All right, the Black Boule or Sigma Pi Phi, all right, the Boule, Sigma Pi Phi, founded in 1904, is the oldest Greek letter fraternity for African-American men. The purpose, it was created as an exclusive professional fraternity for elite Black men, such as doctors, lawyers, and academics, to network and support one another during the Jim Crow era. So now just think about something right quick. And I tend to want to observe, man, everything that goes on, especially when it concerns us. But there's always been a hierarchy in our community, correct? Can we agree? There's always been a hierarchy in our community. There's always been someone in our community that was above someone else just because education, how much money they had, or what family they came from. You know what I mean? That, that's the truth. Can't deny that. All right. But the criticisms in regards to what I just said, or in regards to the elite or the so-called Black Boule, the criticisms are because of its exclusivity, all right, and focus on the Black elite. Critics sometimes view the Boule as being disconnected from the Black masses or acting as gatekeepers who align with existing power structures. Now, just think about that. Think about that. And if you think about it, correctly, or you open your mind up and allow yourself to just, put two and two together, you'll see the point. You'll see the point. Again, we talk about this every day, but we often use those who are closer to us in that hierarchy, which would be the athletes and the entertainers, right? We name them specifically, we tend to miss naming those so-called academics who, to begin with, fostered, or fomented this idea of classism within our society amongst the masses. All right. You got to see game, man. This shit is crazy, man. Anyway, again, criticisms because of his exclusivity, all right, and focus on the black elite. Again, we're talking about the Boule. We're talking about certain fraternities, you know. Um, critics sometimes view the Boule as being disconnected from the black masses or acting as gatekeepers who align with existing power structures. What existing power structures could they align with? There's only really one, right? Now, and again, connect the dots. 1 + 1 is 2, man. All right. Now think back and think of all these individuals. We don't have to name them by name, but just think about, you know, the misleadership of these individuals. The names should pop up. All right. Who they deal with? Who do they go to for not just advice, but approval? You know, negotiations, discussions, things like that. And then who did they come back and placate? Think about it. All right. Think about it. Now, that being said, let me move on, man. Pan-Africanist and puppet allegations. Pan-Africanism is a broad movement centered on the liberation and unity of all people of African descent, specifically to oppose European colonialism, all right, and white supremacy. So even though we have what we have here, brothers and sisters who are indigenous, who are aboriginal, or we like to say to this land, North America, Turtle Island, or whatever you want to call it, the fact remains that they came from a source. Where is that source? Where is that source? There you go. All right. So, you know, and this is just to cut through the chase because we're always at one another about African American, Black American, FBA, colored, Negro, indigenous, blah, 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 blah. This is part of this trap, man, part of this game they play. This is divide and conquer, man, in its rarest sense, in its truest form. That's exactly what it is, you know? All right, that being said, man, listen. Now, regarding the idea that Pan-Africanism or Pan-Africanist are puppets of European and white groups. Now, the core ideology, the movement's core objective is self-determination and independence from external servitude. That's including colonial, neo-colonial, or neoliberal forces. Again, man, just pay attention. Even those academia, those black scholars, those with buku bread, what do they cater to? And you again, connecting the dots should be very simple because the fact remains, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. There's a system in place here, man. You know, and again, we are quick to say what the white man done. You know, we're mad at Clarence Thomas because, listen, man, Clarence Thomas is not the first one. And in fact, he's just part of a group of others in this day and age who go to bat for that side. That's just, come on, man. But we tend to pick and choose. We want to pick and choose because we like this one or that one. You know, that brother speaks a mean piece. That sister's fine. You know, she encompasses everything a black queen should look like, you know. But we not going to the core of this shit. We missing the point. We're missing the point. And again, that as well, that's by design. It's by design. You know? Anyway. So opposition to global power structures. True Pan-Africanism is explicitly anti-imperialist and seeks to dismantle the global power structure that have historically benefited European nations at Africa's expense. I'll read that one more time. Opposition to global power structures. That would include North America or the United States Corporation or the United States of America, United States government. All right. True Pan-Africanism is explicitly anti-imperialist, all right, and seeks to dismantle the global power structure that have historically benefited European nations at Africa's expense. All right. Now, internal critiques. Some scholars and activists argue that certain classical Pan-Africanist leaders were influenced by Western education and values, leading to a westernized vision of African unity. I've said here before, it's been said here before. I had a habit of questioning, I don't care what book it was that I happened to stumble upon or was presented or given to read. I wanted to know who the author was. One, two, where was he educated? Where did he get his education? Where did she get her education? And then after that indoctrination, if you call it that, if you will, did they move that to the side and then get into the studies of those individuals of our persuasion, who were taught, through the lessons and the writings, the scriptures, or whatever it may be, that dealt with us, that were written by us, that they go and do that research as well. I've always said this, at least for me. I've never been one to just accept something because this person is an authority and he's recognized by the American government or the American academic societies, scholastic society, whatever. Don't care jack about that. I don't care jack about that. I get that. That's why I don't care about it. But again, when we're talking about internal critiques, some scholars and activists argue that certain classical Pan-Africanist leaders were influenced by Western education and values, leading to a westernized version of African unity. There are also criticisms that some leaders used Pan-African rhetoric while acting as dictators or failing their people. All right. Now, the co-option. There is a persistent debate within Black intellectual circles about whether Pan-Africanist goals have at times been co-opted or weaponized by the same power structures they were built to fight. My question right quick to anyone and everyone is, do we see that today? Can we point to that today? Can we? Ask yourselves. Can we see where Black intellectuals, I think we can pad that, man, this description or that description of those individuals beyond, or we can pat on top of it alongside, Black intellectuals or so-called celebrities or, our so-called leaders, our so-called role models, you know what I mean? We can put them on that, not pedestal, but we can put them in that category, But anyway, there is a persistent debate within Black intellectual circles about whether Pan-Africanist goals have at times been co-opted or weaponized by the same power structures they were built to fight. Do we see that? This 2026. This is 2026, y'all. All right. Now, that being said, while some individual Pan-Africanists may have personal affiliations with elite organizations like the Boule, the Pan-African movement itself is ideologically opposed to external control and was founded as a direct challenge to white supremacy. We have to understand that last part. Opposed externally, or exposed external, or is opposed to external control, and it was founded as a direct challenge to white supremacy. Can anybody point to white supremacy or the external control of the masses and the people? What's in place that most of us participating in? We aren't necessarily, truthfully speaking, we aren't disconnected from the matrix. We all in, we plugged in. We support the white supremacist ideology, not just the program, but the ideology. We're all in, when truthfully, each and every one of us, whether we profess to be Pan-Africanists or not, are supposed to be fighting, challenging the system in any aspect. We aren't. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm not. I recognize where I'm falling, or I am participating in a system that has been against way before I came in the picture, but has been against the people, the masses. Its intent is not to make our lives better. It is not to empower us. It is not to see us excel. And yet we participate in it and with it. A lot of us prop it up. We prop it up. Carl Thomas, or whatever his name is. I forget the guy's name that quick, man. Clarence Thomas. But he's just one of, a whole lot. And that's on that level. What about those down here? And again, I was one. I'm just saying, something to think about. Something to think about. So historically, Pan-Africanists have not supported capitalists over everything else. Let me read that again. Historically, Pan-Africanists have not supported capitalism over everything else. In fact, the most influential leaders and thinkers of the movement often viewed capitalism and imperialism as two sides of the same coin. Pan-Africanists today support both sides of the coin, or that one side that's the same side, be it capitalist or capitalism, or imperialist or imperialism. This is what we've come to, especially, this is what has come to, especially for those who know better than me and anybody else. You know what I mean? Those that say this is ingrained in them, Pan-Africanism, they participate in the program. That's hypocrisy. All right, because modern capitalism was built largely on the exploitation of African labor and resources through slavery and colonialism, many Pan-Africanists argue that it is fundamentally incompatible with true African liberation. Make that make sense, man? Well, it do to me. So instead of adhering to Western capitalist structures, the movement has historically leaned toward socialist and communalist models. Communalist models, all right? Scientific socialism, revolutionary leaders like Kwame Nkrumah, Amilcar Cabral, and Walter Rodney argue that Africa could never be truly independent under a capitalist system. So now let's attach that, or let's apply that to those of us who are here. That would apply, correct? We'll never be independent. We'll never be free. We'll never have autonomy as long as we're under or function within a capitalist system. It's been said, I've said it, I don't know everything, man. There's so much, man, I need to know. I desire to know, that my core say, I should know. I'm working on that. But that much I knew. I've been knowing that for a long time. There's no way on God's green earth that we could have autonomy or independence from these people as long as we participate with their system or is a part of their system. No way. It's just that it doesn't make sense. That will not happen. Okay, African socialism. Leaders like Julius Nyerere, Tanzania, excuse me, and Leopold Senghor of Senegal sought an indigenous model based on traditional African communal values, rejecting both Western capitalism and Soviet-style communism. So on both fronts, if they were attached to it, it was rejected immediately, But anyway, anti-capitalist rhetoric, activists, we're talking about anti-capitalist rhetoric now, but anyway, activists like Malcolm X and Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, right, famously argued that you cannot have capitalism without racism, viewing the capitalist system as an imported European structure that inherently creates a black elite while leaving the masses impoverished. That was what I was getting to. That's what I'm going to get to. And it's been said here on this channel many times. Listen, man, before we even, and just speaking metaphorically, before we even go to war with them people personally, we'll be at war with ourselves first, just because of that statement. It's been said many times before on this channel and others that I've watched, I've viewed, that I've watched and viewed. It's been said, man. We'll be fighting against the black elite before we ever have to see them people head on. It's facts, man. But here are notable exceptions and modern nuances, okay? Excuse me. Marcus Garvey. He is a rare example of a prominent Pan-Africanist who promoted black capitalism. He believed that for black people to be respected globally, they needed to build their own massive economic and industrial enterprises to compete with Western powers. Damn, ain't that shit we talk about? We have those discussions. There lies our autonomy, our sovereignty, our independence. It does not lie being a part of or working within their system. It'll never happen that way. Contemporary realities, man. Today, the African Union and initiatives like the African Continental Free Trade Area, the AFCFTA, focus on economic integration. While these often operate within the global capitalist framework, the stated goal remains economic sovereignty and reducing dependence on the West. And yet you can't have it both ways. So, I don't even want to hear that argument right there. You can't do it, and if the AU is mentioned, then we're talking about countries with its own resources and the ability and know-how to extract these resources, market them, produce and market them. So I don't get that, I don't get it. They often work and operate or even cooperate within the global capitalist framework. Therein lies the problem, if you ask me. While some modern iterations of the movement work within capitalist systems out of practical necessity, the core of Pan-Africanist thought remains deeply critical of capitalism as a tool of continued neo-colonialism. All right? Straight up, man. Now, this is the last part, and I'm gonna move on. We're gonna, let's get into these comments, man, because I think there's a lot to dissect, chop up, and discuss here. Modern Pan-Africanism frequently integrates socialist and Marxist-Leninist frameworks to argue that true African liberation is impossible under global capitalism, which many activists view as a continuation of colonial exploitation. Key modern examples: one, economic freedom fighters, the EFF in South Africa. All right. Would that be Julius, our boy, Malema. I think that's him. I'm not sure. But yeah, anyway, um, the Economic Freedom Fighters is currently one of the most prominent political parties explicitly combining Pan-Africanism with Marxist, Leninist, and Fanonian thought. Their 7 cardinal pillars include the nationalization of mines and banks and the state-led redistribution of land throughout or without compensation. That would be Julius Malema. Malema. I think it's Malema. Yeah, he pushes. Shit, he's under attack now as I speak, man. They trying to knock him down, man. Get him out the way. What he's saying makes too much sense, man. The Africans in South Africa, so they trying to get rid of him. Anyway, though, the Alliance of the Sahel States. All right. Now, you got to applaud these 3 brothers. You got to applaud the people of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. You know, their leaders, you know, Tchani, Goita, and Traore. Man, they trying to do the damn thing, but we're not seeing that because we're here and we're being distracted by all this outside shit and this internal shit, you know, from our own people. They're, you know, man, they're under siege. France, Great Britain, and the United States, they will not have them saying we are a sovereign nation. We serve our people first and foremost. They like, nah, man. We've been raping and pillaging this continent for too long for y'all to come up and tell us in the 21st century we can't have no more of this shit for free. So they go get so-called terrorists, other black men, to come and try to dismantle or, you know, disrupt what these brothers are trying to do for their people. And we see it every day. That's in Africa. We see it here in the United States as well. Not on that scale, because we ain't got shit over here. At least that's what they want us to think. But it happens, man. It's going down, you know? It's going down. Anyway, the Alliance of the Sahel States, the AES, formed by Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. This alliance represents a resurgence of revolutionary Pan-Africanism focused on reclaiming sovereignty. Their actions, such as expelling foreign troops and seeking greater control over natural resources, draw inspiration from the socialist-leaning Pan-Africanism of Thomas Sankara. All right? Now, in terms of the Communist Party of Kenya, the CPK, the Communist Party of Kenya, actively promotes a united socialist Africa through the Pan-African Socialist Alliance, the PASA, the PASA. They advocate for closing foreign military bases, land reclamation, and linking climate justice to the destruction of capitalism. All right. All African People's Revolutionary Party. This is another group. This mass-based organization continues to work towards total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. It maintains that the African diaspora and continental Africans are one people whose primary struggle is against the capitalist imperialist system. All right. I can go on and on to the break of dawn, but I ain't gonna do that. I ain't gonna do that. You know, I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna touch on this though. I'm gonna come back here, come back home. So in the United States, Pan-Africanists within Black Greek letter organizations, which is called the BGLOs, have a long history of utilizing socialist and communalist or communist frameworks to drive radical social change, specifically by prioritizing collective welfare over individual capital. While these organizations are often viewed through the lens of their elite membership, their history includes significant departures from capitalist gatekeeping towards grassroots community empowerment. The historical socialist and communist influences, all right? This is where it gets good. The intellectual foundation of many BGLOs was shaped by Pan-Africanists who were openly critical of capitalism. These leaders often viewed socialism as the only viable path to dismantling the color line and colonial legacies. W.E.B. Du Bois, Alpha Pi Alpha, a foundational thinker for both Pan-Africanism, for both Pan-Africanism and Black socialists, fought Black socialist thought in the U.S. Du Bois argued that the liberation of Black people required a planned, cooperative economy rather than one based on individual profit. Then you had Paul Robeson, also an Alpha Pi Alpha, a staunch Pan-Africanist and socialist who used his global platform to advocate for labor rights and the decolonization of Africa, often in direct opposition to Western imperialist interests. All right. Now, Council on African Affairs, the CAA, the GBLO, members like Du Bois and Robeson and Alphonsus Hutton, also Alpha Pi Alpha, led the CAA, which was the most prominent Pan-African organization in the U.S. during the 1930s and 40s. It was deeply influenced by international communist and anti-imperialist perspectives, focusing on mass mobilization rather than elite gatekeeping. All right. I want to get to the part where it all changed, though, y'all, so just bear with me. Okay, the radical shifts. No, that's going to tell me something else. Okay, so when Pan-Africanism is led by individuals within elite circles like the Boule or Sigma Pi Phi, or other gatekeepers who operate inside a capitalist system, their approach to fighting capitalism usually doesn't look like a socialist revolution. Instead, it takes the form of institutional Pan-Africanism or strategic reform. All right. Here is how these modern gatekeepers claim to fight for the diaspora while remaining inside the capitalist structure. One, leverage capital, economic nationalism. Rather than trying to destroy capitalism, these gatekeepers, these so-called leaders, argue that the only way to protect the diaspora is to hijack the tools of capitalism. The logic, they believe that without Black capital, African people will always be at the mercy of others. The action, they use their positions in global finance and law to facilitate deals like the AFCFTA, African Continental Free Trade Area. This or that goal, or the goal, is to move wealth between African-owned entities globally, bypassing traditional Western middleman banks that historically exploited African resources. The next is inside game policy sabotage. Elite Pan-Africanists often act as a lobbying force within Western governments and corporations to stop imperialist parties or policies from the inside. The action, members of the Congressional Black Caucus, many of whom are Boule or D9, that D9 I think is Divine Nine, members use their legislative power to push for the forgiveness of African debt or to demand that the U.S. stop supporting certain predatory mining companies in the Congo. The fight, they argue that by being at the table, they can divert capitalist resources toward Black communities that would otherwise be ignored. Now, I have a problem with that statement, and many of us should if we really see what's going on, especially with the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, Jim Clyburn, Hakeem Jeffries, Cory Booker, Gregory Meeks. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. All of these individuals are millionaires now. How'd they get there like that? You know, most of them have been in politics. Jim Clyburn been there for about maybe 20-something years, maybe 30 years. You know, the next in line would be, I think, Cory Booker, you know, but all these guys are millionaires. Not by being, you know, straight up and righteous politicians pushing for the people's, you know, pushing calls for the people. You don't become a millionaire like that. That's not how that works. You know. So again, man, connect the dots. You know, connect the dots. All right. Philanthropic redistribution. Philanthropic redistribution, because they operate in a system of extreme wealth. They're socialists. Their socialist their social effort, often looks like large-scale communal redistribution via foundations. The example, using corporate wealth to fund HBCUs or providing seed capital for African tech startups. The critique, many grassroots Pan-Africanists see this as trickle-down liberation that doesn't actually change the system. But the gatekeepers argue it provides the economic floor necessary for any future growth. All right. Redirecting foreign direct investment, FDI. Modern gatekeepers use their networks to ensure that when money flows into Africa or Black neighborhoods in the United States, it isn't extractive. The strategy, they push for social impact bonds, or ESG, environmental, social, and governance standards that require corporations to hire locally, build infrastructure, and leave a percentage of profits in the community. I can just tear that to pieces, man, by itself. But the core tension, you are touching on the biggest debate in the movement today. Can you see the master's tools to dismantle the master's house? The gatekeeper's view, we need Black billionaires and high-level politicians to compete on the global stage and protect our interests. That's the gatekeeper's view. We need Black billionaires and high-level politicians to compete on the global stage and protect our interests. The grassroots view, these elites are just compradors. All right? These elites are just compradors. COMPRADORS. And I think that's Stokely Carmichael came up with that phrase to, identify certain Blacks. All right. But anyway, the grassroots view is these elites are just compradors, proxies who manage Black people on behalf of the white capitalist system. Where do we see this at? Where do we see this at? Where do we see this at? Now, I've read enough. Man, I got so much of that stuff, man. I went down the rabbit hole today. No, I did a deep dive. I think I did a deep dive, man, and it was deep. So enough said about that. Let's get in these comments, man. And I do have a clip I want to share with everybody. I do have a clip. But again, going to my point, and I started this conversation because, there's a lot of hoopla about Clarence Thomas. And again, man, what were any of us ignorant of the fact or to the fact that, he serves who he serves? He serves who he serves. So why is everybody, focused on this guy that caters to, the white supremacist, operation or get down? Why is that? Come on, we already knew. But he's not the only one. We want to be hooping and hollering all over the internet about Clarence Thomas and what he did about this 1965 Voting Rights Act, which was a sham and a scam to begin with. But we got 1,000 of him that we hear more from and see more of every day. The social media does not light up like that with these individuals. No one's talking about canceling those individuals that we see every day, man. Those individuals who push the white agenda, the white capitalist structure or infrastructure, those individuals, we don't say none of them. They shoot a basketball well, they've been in the league a while, man, hit a baseball good, run that football, throw that football, Their acting skills or, you know, above par. You know, we just love them in spite of what they're doing to us. And Clarence Thomas done some shit not even worse than what we see these people that we look at or that we revere, that we aspire to be, you know, he done way worse. I mean, way less than what they're doing. Ain't nobody attacking these people. You know, that's bull crap to me. That's just, you know, that's crap. That is crap, man. You know, ain't nobody asking who appointed any of these people, especially those who profess to be our leaders or who will speak for us. Go to these corporations and get this money, none of which actually comes to the community and does any good for the community. A majority of it, the money they receive from these donations, these philanthropists or whoever gives them these money, these corporations, 2/3 of it go in their pockets. Maybe you would hope that 1/3 of it goes into your community where we could see a difference. We could see something actually taking place. That's not the case, though. We know this. We know this. You know, this gatekeeper shit, man, is real. And we on the wrong shit. And again, that's not to say we shouldn't be on what we own for those who have a faith or a belief, you know, or who are part of a spiritual get down, man. Yeah, man, by all means. But damn, you know, for those of you who you do that and this, you know, I don't know. Something to think about. Something to think about. Anyway, let me get to these comments. I know it's a lot of disagreeing up in here, and that's fine. It's what we do this for. You know, let's debate it. Let's discuss it. Let's discuss it. Let's debate it. Let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about it. All right. Young Vaughn said, okay, I read that 32-year-olds. I appreciate the content. I think Pan-Africanism has been diluted because often Black Americans are disrespected by the rest of the diaspora. That's just part of it. But yeah, you know, we have tethers, you know. You can sit down, they come here, sit down, talk shit about us, you know, what we ain't created, what we didn't contribute to society or the world. We have no culture, and yet, you know, just like the others, these other demographics, but these are Black people, right? They emulate us, you know, yeah, you know, that happens. That's going on. No doubt about that, though, Young Vaughn. Appreciate that, man. All right. Soldier Denise, how you doing, Queen? Good to see you up in here. Like I said, she said, love and blessing to the kings and queens of the RGC. Antonio, what it do, loved one? Salute. I see you. I see you. And hopefully you caught some of what I've been reading or talking about. And if so, you know, you already know to get down, bro. All right. C1 said, man, literally teaching all the melanated nurses and security guards about B1 while I'm locked up. All right, there you go. There you go. All the way and down in the deep, you pushing. There you go. Modern Pan-Africanism. All right, Chris, I see you, brother. B1, Black first, man. Peace and prosperity to you and the fam, bro. Good to see you up in here, man. Yes, sir. I see you, niece. Thank you. Thank you. Chris said, man, the Black elite wants nothing to do with us. Black man face, white man heart. Again, man, I'm telling you, that is the point. What I'm trying to stress is this. We are in a damn war for our souls. That's where the war is now. See, a lot of people say, oh, we're at war for our minds and our body. No, man, they already beat us in that, man. They've already defeated us there. And I have to say that, man. You know, the majority of us have already lost that war. That war, lost. The physicality, you know, the flesh, lost. There's only one front left. And I think that front is starting to awaken, you know? It's being triggered. It's being activated. I don't know why. I can't explain it. I'm not going to try to. That's for those of you who got, a greater understanding, comprehension of that get out. I just know it's happening. This awakening. I got the idea. I trust in my core that this is one they're not going to win this one. This one is going to redeem the other two that we tend to think we've lost, or I mentioned or said we've lost already. Could be redeemed though. And fight for it again, win it back. You know what I mean? But hey, man, man, y'all got to understand. Well, I know that a lot of you do. We're in a situation, man. That's all I'm trying to stress to the people. We're in a situation, man, and a lot of us are part of the cause of the problem we're in. I included, I included. But we have to see individually as well as a unit, as one, that we're waking up now, man, and that's significant. It's so important, or it's so important that we recognize this, to acknowledge it with what little we got left here, and that would send the message, hey, man, wait a minute, we still in this fight. We have to be able to recognize, acknowledge this, man, so that we can begin to do those things we need to do that our spirits, call for us to do. If we're not willing to recognize and see, look around us, man, our brothers and sisters are becoming more conscious. They are waking up. It's a struggle, no doubt, but it is happening. We got to get to that point, of that part, where we begin to understand, yeah, this is a war for our souls, and this one we can't lose. We can, I don't even think we can get this one away, to tell you the truth. It's too much going on, you know what I mean? It's too much attached to it. But we have to see that, man, this thing is real. As a people, we got to see this shit, man. And we got to be willing to say, hey, you know what? All right. We've done everything else. Seriously. We've done everything else but this. I'm talking about those of us who are living in the flesh right now. You know what I mean? Most of us have done everything else, man, except for this one last thing. We got to tap into the source, man. Whatever that may be, however y'all explain or express it. But the soul is calling. And our people are waking up. They listen, they're hearing the call, man. That's what I'm saying. We're waking up now. And it's imperative that we do. Because they got some stuff in play. They want to try to, put the soul back to sleep. They want to try to prevent the awakening from taking place. And as far as we know, they may have a way. We don't know. But hey, man, this shit is going on, and it's going on for real. And we got our people who are assisting those people and making sure, or trying to assure them that it'll never happen. Not on their watch, Not good, man. The gatekeeper, man, that system, it's at work. That buffer class, But anyway, let me get to these, man. She wants to say amen to that Aboriginal from African DNA. There you go. Mark Dollars said, man, peace from the Bronx, New York. God dang, man. We all the way up in the Bronx. Got loved ones down that way, man. Don't hear much from them, but still love them. They still my brothers and sisters. Hey, man, hey, peace, prosperity to you, man, and your fam, man. Everybody that you have a concern, regard, and love, and respect for, bro. Mark Dollars, it's an honor to have you here. This is Under the Groove Podcast. You are touching bases with the people, man. Please like and share. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this. Get down, bro. Subscribe to this Get Down, man. Join this Get Down, man. This is the RGC, the Royal Group Congregation that's up in this house, man. And we talk, we focus on the focus. And hey, man, we spit, man, truth, man. That's it. Everything's above board, man. We're about the business. Good to have you here, bro. Thank you for coming in. Chris said, man, black judges are harder on you than a white judge. Have you peeped that? It's always like that too. That's the same go for black, let's say police. All right. Let's just say it, you know. Now, is that a good or bad thing? No. Perspective. I had a teacher that was harder on me than my white teachers. I used to think, man, can't stand that lady. Right? I'm thinking the whole time, man, she just like these crackers. But that wasn't the case. You know, that wasn't the case. That teacher's name was Miss Tennyson. And most individuals who went through Lauren Miller back in the day, they know exactly who I'm talking about, and they'll tell you the same thing. She was a no-nonsense, but she did not accept BS. She was on our necks for a reason, you know. Now, the same could be said. It depends on the circumstance. The same could be said about black judges, about black cops, who we tend to think, oh, man, you know, and they were, and then the white people, you know. Now, Clarence Thomas, that's not a debate. He wouldn't even be in the equation, right? But I've had a black judge that, you know, I could tell he was offended that, you know, not for the sake of white people. He wasn't looking at it through, you know, the white gaze. You know what I mean? He was looking at a young black man wasting his life for what? How many brothers and sisters could speak to that who went before white judges, black judges, and you got a certain dealing with, thrashing. But, you know, if you thought about it hard enough, you recognize that this brother or this sister on that bench was trying to tell us something within the frames or the confines of the law. You know what I mean? Without just saying, all right, black man, black woman, king, queen, what the hell are you doing? Why are you playing their game? Why are you falling victim to their traps? You know what I mean? So it's about perspective, man. Clarence Thomas, though, is somebody that you wouldn't even put in that equation. He's chosen. He has chosen his side. Some black cops, brothers and sisters, tend to be the same way. I ran into a few. Like, hey, man, you lucky it's me today. If it was somebody else, you know. Now, that's not to say, you know, we had some cops in our community, man, black, who were rotten to the core. It wasn't about trying to address, you know, our delinquency, you know, or, you know, those things we were doing that were not good for us and or the community, you know, that, you know, would represent our parents in a bad light. Come on, man. It's perspective, though. But I get your point, man, wholeheartedly. I know exactly where you're coming from. There are all kinds like that on both sides of the fence or both sides of the coin. All right. So it's just all, you know, let's keep that in perspective. It's a good look, bro. B60 says, the video you shared last week about the black folks worried about the brothers and sisters coming out of the South in the late 1960s and 70s was the gatekeepers. Yeah, I know you would get it. That's what I was showing, man. That's our fight. That's our first fight. That is there. Those who run everything, you know, white supremacists or white supremacists, that's their first line of defense. Again, that's who we'll face. That's who we're going to face. That's who we're facing. That's who we're actually dealing with right now, you know. You know, straight up. That's to get down right now. Right now. They be more upset with me, my loud ass, you know, want to bump my oldies and shit, my Tupac, moving in their community from the home we in now to a more, you know, a traditional community, you know what I mean? They'd be more upset than the white folk. Me, I come in with my Pumas on, man, you know what I'm saying? My hat, man, my t-shirts, Under the Groove podcast, you know. And now they got to put my pants up, man, you know what I'm saying? You know, talking to my woman, man, like, yeah, we just came off the set. You know, we hollering, that's how we chill. They be being more and more up in arms than the white folk. They'll head to the HOA and any community, you know, get down they got going on, be like, hey, we got to get them out of here. You know, that's the truth, man. Sad, but that's true. The first part of, well, we're in that struggle with our own people, man. And our own people are telling us still, man, shut up and stop being ignorant. Just go along with the program. You know, I got mine, get yours, put yourself up by your bootstraps. You know, hey, man, they play ball with these people. You know, man, tell on your own, get a little money, man. You know, hey, start a career doing it. You know, be a buffoon, you know, be a minstrel act, man, whatever. Just do it, man. Just go along with the flow. Don't rock the boat. And we already confronted with that. Yeah, you ain't never lied, B60. That's what it is right now, today. Lonzo said, man, New York in the Boston in the house. New York in the Boston in the house. What up, bro? Peace to you and yours. East Coast love, LOL. All right, there you go. What's up with it, Lonzo? C1 says, yeah. Soldiers, DNA, loyalty, royalty inside our DNA, war and peace inside our DNA, power and ambition inside our DNA. Little Kendrick Lamar right there. Sound like it. Yeah. Sound like it. Real spit. Lonzo said, man, our DNA is undefeated. We just have to tap into it. Yeah, that's it, man. Connect. Also, he goes on to say, man, DNA is information. Energy is information. All right. Chris said infiltration amongst the ranks. That's right. That's right. All right, there you go. What to do, Fat Rat Playboy? He said, man, peace to you and RGC Big Bug. Right back to you, bro. Good to see you up in here. I wonder if you caught any of that, man, because I know you got something to say about this, bro. This is part of the struggle. I'd say this is the struggle. This is the struggle, you know, being at war, a battle with our own, man. For those, you know, being at war with our own who support this whole apparatus, man. This whole apparatus is detrimental. It is not for us. It is not for us. Anyway, I see you too, Alonzo. You say, I hope you and yours are okay. Anyway, our people have to get on this original Asiatic black shit and off everything else, period. Excuse me, y'all. All right. And live by the first 5 books, your own interpretation of it. All right. Chris said, man, that's a fact. We're always looking a way up in a selfish way. Well, I was looking for a way up. That's a fact. We're always looking a way up in a selfish way. Yeah. We can't break the chains, man, the mental chains. Yeah, they could be broken. I think, you know, for a lot of, you know, I even admit it, or I've suggested, well, I acknowledge I've broken the mental chains on, you know, on my mind, right? But I also realized that the remnants of them still lay across my shoulders and my neck. They're still there in a lot of ways. I mean, they're not got this thing, you know, my mind just wrapped in, you know, I've broken them, but they're still there. You know what I mean? You know, the waste of them falling off. They didn't fall to the ground. I didn't shake them all the way off. They're still there on my shoulders and my neck, around my neck, you know, type of get down. So yeah, that's a process, man. No doubt. We're talking about, man, not just my decades of living, you know, but the life my family lived, who came before me, and all that I, you know, all their indoctrination, and, you know, me getting, you know, that indoctrination from them as well. You know what I mean? That's a whole lot of baggage, man. That's a whole lot of change, man. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a work in progress, man. I appreciate you dropping that like that though, man. That's some truth to power right there. That's some truth to power. Soldier Denise said, man, I totally agree. We must design our own systems. That's the only way to beat them. Because as long as we participate with their system, it's their system. We will never have an ownership in it or say in it. And in fact, we'll never be able to become autonomous or independent or sovereign as long as we support or is a part of their system. There's no way we can be any of those things I just named if we're a part of that same system that enslaved and exploited us. No how, no way. And for any of those or those who say, well, look at so and so and how much money they got. Yeah, man. Again, understand the situation, man. Understand the situation. You got to understand it like they do, though, because for the most part, the majority of them ain't gonna lose that. Not what the master gave them. They not trying to lose none of that. So they're not relating to any of what we go through. They don't have to. You know, they don't have to. You know. Lonzo said, man, we have our own system already. Just most of our people don't know about it. It's called universal math and oneness with the universe. An entire script starting with equality must be in all words and thoughts. Must be in all words, thoughts, and actions. Without equality, you off balance. All right. Lonzo also say, man, I don't like Pan-Africans. It's started by the CIA. I don't mess with no panties. Or you could say pansies. I don't know. Pansies or panty. Okay. But definitely Burkina Faso. I respect and salute them. Him stand, I respect and salute them. They stand strong against the devil. All right, Frederick, got to be what it do, loved one. All right, I'll see you up in this thing with us, man. Appreciate your presence, brother. Fat Rat said, man, got to make that Pan-Africanism plain and simple to digest. All right. Wisdom is the ability to simplify things that are complex for actionable consideration. So, then I suggest that there's a lot written on Pan-Africanism. Now, first and foremost, be careful who you read it from. That's what I would suggest first and foremost. But in terms of how Fat Rat put it, yeah, man, it's simplified. It's simplified. There are individuals who have worked on it, and it's done in such a way that easily comprehended. It's easily comprehended. I was just checking out some also by Dr. Umar Johnson. And he was breaking it down. And he also expressed in a lot of ways being able to discern what's real about Pan-Africanism and what's some bullshit made up or diluted, watered down Pan-Africanism, So yeah, by all means, man, go check that out, man. And if need be, get the simplest form of it so that it can be digested and understood. I don't, I don't know. I don't think it's complicated, but I think the whole point is, hey man, we're supposed to be doing us. We're supposed to be doing us, plainly put. And by doing us, everything that we're doing inside their system is what we're supposed to be doing for us in our system. That's what it is. Being independent, being sovereign. Having our own economic base, our own economic system. Who said we couldn't? Who said we could not? So no. Representing blacks as one. That's it. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm gonna read this. I wasn't gonna read this, but I'm gonna read this. Alonzo said, man, they don't have Pan-African unity in Africa, so why Pan-Africans over here can't have us care more about Africa than America? We play football over here, not soccer. We Americans. We should care about America. And so you don't think that affects the diaspora of black people as a whole, just being concerned about yourself? And I'm trying to understand that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, bro. I mean, see, if we're preaching, if it's being preached that we are connected to this one source, each and every one of us, then why in the same breath say, oh man, forget him and forget them? If we're talking about whatever the Most High had put us here to do, because we don't see eye to eye because we're geographically separated, man. That don't whatever. It don't concern them. I need to understand that. I need to understand that, man. And not only that, man, but I think that's part of the problem, man. It's part of our problem, man. We've been the Jim, the Willie Lynch is so inbred in us that even when we call ourselves speaking positively, speaking, being productive and positive about love and respect for the people, for God's chosen, we still tend to show that, man, there's again, man, yeah, man, them remnants are there. We can say all we want. We broke the chains, the psychological chains of slavery, man. All we want. We still act a certain way. We still now more than them divide and conquer each other based on whatever whatever fits our fancy, whatever we fancy, man. 1 minute we supposed to be righteous and holy, supposed to be connecting, man, with the get down, and the next, oh man, fuck them, oh, I don't like them, or they ain't a part of this and they ain't a part. That's not only confusing, man, it's kind of hypocritical. We're in a fucking fight, man. Not just for our existence, man, but for us to attain or reach that destination, whoever designed it to be that way. That's what this shit about, man. And this is what we be saying about each other. That shit don't make sense. It don't jive, man. Again, it's confusing. It's hypocritical, man. It ain't genuine, man. That's being disingenuous right there, man. And that's the problem. We're too quick to divide and conquer each other. That shit don't make sense, man. None of that shit makes sense. Why would I want to listen to 1 minute is this positivity, growth, spirituality, connecting with the one, the source, and then the next minute I'm hearing this shit out the same mouth? That don't make sense, bro. That's not righteous, bro. How you gonna win somebody over like that, man? How we gonna get the people, man, to come on, man? Wake up. Let's get to where we supposed to be. By whoever's design. We agree that, hey, man, ain't nobody like us. We the ones. But how the fuck we gonna get to where we supposed to be and we still got this bullshit? That's what I be talking about, homie. I don't care about nothing else. I see what I see from individuals, man. Bullshit. That shit ain't cool, man. It ain't cool. Because each and every one of them brothers are also connected to this get down, bro. Straight up. I don't give a fuck if they're in Timbuktu or not. They're part of this get down. They come from the source. Yes. Come on, man. This is what I be talking about, man. We tend to not listen to what the fuck we be saying, man. Shit foul, man. I agree. We should not disrespect each other. We call a duck, a strike, but we're not supposed to discard one another like this, man. So, man, so what, man? Somebody from way over there, that's our problem. Man, we know this shit, man, better than most, man. We divide ourselves, man, like nobody's business, man. Same spirit, same soul, come from the same source. We do this shit every day. We still don't get it, man. Shit ain't cool, bro. Ain't none of that shit cool. We talking about a higher power. We talking about the source, getting to where we supposed to be. And then you know, shit like that be said, man, that shit ain't cool, man. That shit don't get nothing done. That shit ain't gonna spark somebody's soul that's asleep. What that's gonna do is make somebody whose mind already fucked up worse when they hear that shit. Fuck that, man. That's bullshit, bro. Straight bullshit, man. Check this out, man. I'm about to cut out, man. Got things to do, man. I love to get out, man. I love the people, man. Straight up, man. Ain't none of us perfect, man. Straight up, man. Ain't not one of us perfect. If our obligation, man, as living human beings with this source, this spark that's in us, inherent, this that makes us who we are, if we've been granted this by whoever, then our job, man, is to ascend to that, man, and get off this bullshit we on. This the problem. We be on bullshit. We be talking out both sides of our necks, and that shit foul, homie. Ain't nothing cool with that shit. Ain't nothing cool about it. Man, peace and love, man, to each and every one of y'all, man. Power's in the people, man. That power, man, come from one source. Period, point blank. That makes us all the same motherfuckers from the same motherfucking source. So what? Some of us don't get what the source is just yet. But it's there in each and every one of us. Melanated, the chosen. Man, shit, man. Ain't no divide and conquer shit. That's our problem, man. Man, you gotta love yourself, man, in order to be able to love somebody else, man. Real spit. If you ain't got that yet, fuck all that talk. If you don't love yourself, you can't love the next brother, man, that don't know or that needs that love. Don't know he need it, but need it. If you ain't on that, man, it's all cap, man. Power in the people, man. You are, you have been, and you will be under the groove, man. One love, man.
Count the names, count the bodies, count the victory. Cullen Hughes, Hurst, and writing future history. From the Apollo to the borough to the sphere. Where the echo of those Harlem nights still ringing clear. So when they ask what happened in those tenement flats, between the spirituals and where consciousness is at, tell them we transformed suffering to scholarship and song. Tell them we've been telling you we're brilliant all along. The Renaissance will prologue every decade since the sequel. Every black child born's continuation of the people who survived the Middle Passage, survived the Jim Crow laws, and built magnificence from nothing but their vision and their flaws. That's in the sergeant. This is once a less than had this had to send messages. Please don't you, I can't stop us. Power sensitive, but you the applause for pose. Need your data, tropes, and constantly problem when the wet just wanna build the season big. Now don't get the pause. It's just the raising up the cons. Plead the markets off the main. Make it honor fans. Turn the neck and love the dirt. Suffer like a kesha. You were grown to preaching up on side as each alone, but on the shit and untrue seeing vets. Someone the very inch on Gary Land. Be hell in heaven, you see what the Bonavir. If wait, talking for the marker, make the key to pull the club and saw the bonds to the Sangalandas. Carried open slowly, keep us looking on my mother. Break your generosity, more than he and let the peasant be. It's every time we keep a spawn.